The kettle hissed as Lucas Graves tightened the knot of his navy suit. The scent of his cologne hit the air, and his wheels whispered across the floor. "Business trip," he said, brushing a crumb from his tie with that smile, ready, perfect in photos, empty in real life. Eleanor stood by the counter, wiping last night's dishes, heart tight, eyes on their 4-year-old son, still clutching a pink lollipop. "When will you be back, Daddy?" the boy asked. Lucas's hand paused, mid-motion, then landed on the doorknob. "Soon," he lied. The door clicked shut, and the quiet felt wrong before a storm hits. Hours later, Eleanor tried calling straight to voicemail. Days passed, no word, no message, no money. She searched, begged, reported nothing. The world whispered the words she didn't want to believe. He left them. 15 years later, when a cream-colored wedding invitation arrived in her mailbox bearing his name and another woman's, she didn't cry. She only whispered, "He left his wife and son to die, and now he wants me at his wedding?" The guests at that wedding would never forget what happened when she walked in. This is the story of how a husband left his wife and son to die. 15 years later, he invited her to his wedding, and when she arrived, the crowd froze. But what made the entire crowd freeze that day? Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, please click subscribe. Every single click helps us tell stories of courage and truth. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Because when we share these stories together, we remind each other that even in pain, we can rise. The kettle hissed loud enough to drown out the cartoons sang on the TV, but not loud enough to cover the sound of wheels of his suitcase whispering across the floor. The smell of cologne hit the air sharp, new, expensive. Lucas Graves stood in the doorway, navy suit, shiny shoes, and that smile ready that always looked perfect in pictures but never reached his eyes. "Business trip?" he said, voice smooth, as he brushed a crumb from his tie. Eleanor Graves, 28, stood by the counter wiping last night's dishes, hands shaking slightly. Her brown hair was pinned up in a messy knot. She wore an old t-shirt splattered with pancake batter. Their son, Noah, 4 years old, sat cross-legged on the floor, holding a pink lollipop like treasure. "Will you be gone long, Daddy?" Noah asked. Lucas smiled, that gap in his front teeth flashing as he bent down to pat the boy's shoulder. "Just a few days, champ. Be good for Mommy." He didn't look at Eleanor when he said it. Her throat tightened. "Lucas, rent's due. The car payment." "I already handled it," he interrupted. His tone clipped. But he hadn't. She knew it. The quiet felt wrong before a storm hits. The door clicked shut, and with it, warmth left the house. For a moment, Eleanor just stood there. The ceiling fan creaked overhead, blowing a faint chill across the cool floor under her bare feet. The hum of the fridge filled the silence, steady but empty. Hours passed. The pancakes grew cold. The phone never rang. She tried calling him once, twice, 5 times each time, straight to voicemail. By nightfall, Noah sat by the window, his small hands pressed to the glass. "Mommy, when will Daddy come back from his business trip?" Eleanor forced a smile, her heart cracking like thin glass. "Soon, baby. He'll come back soon." She waited until Noah fell asleep, then walked to the bedroom. His duffel bag was gone. The dent in his pillow still smelled like him, but the drawer was empty, his shirts missing. She found a chipped mug on the dresser, his favorite one. He'd left that behind, maybe on purpose. Maybe as proof he was once here. Her phone buzzed suddenly. Hope surged. She snatched it up, unknown number. A message appeared. "Don't contact him again." Eleanor's knees buckled. She sank to the floor, tears streaking her face. "What does that mean?" she whispered. The pipes whispered too, like the house was trying to answer her. She called her father-in-law, Patrick Moore, hoping for clarity. He sighed, long and tired. "Men need space, Eleanor. Don't make it worse. Be more supportive." The words cut like glass. "He's your son, Patrick. He left us." Patrick's voice went cold. Maybe he had his reasons. Then the line went dead. Outside, the gray sky hung heavy, a lid on the whole town. Eleanor leaned her head against the wall, clutching her phone so tight it hurt. Something deep inside told her this wasn't a trip. This was a goodbye disguised as one. But she didn't know yet truth was a slow burn. Tomorrow, she would find out how far a man could go to erase the life he left behind. The knock on the door came hard enough to rattle the pipes that whispered inside the walls. Eleanor flinched. For a second, she hoped it was Lucas. But when she opened the door, it was Martha Lopez, her neighbor from across the hall, holding a folded newspaper and worry in her eyes. "You need to see this," Martha said, pushing it into her hands. The headline blurred as Eleanor read, "Local accountant, missing after company layoffs." Her breath caught. The photo was Lucas, same navy suit, same gap in his front teeth, same man who promised a business trip. "But he said he was going to Chicago," Eleanor whispered. Martha's voice lowered. "My cousin works at that office. He didn't get laid off. He quit 2 weeks before he told you that story." The truth was a slow burn, but now it hurt fast. Eleanor grabbed her coat. "I need to see for myself." The gray sky hung low as she walked the cracked sidewalk to his old office building. Cool floor under her bare feet replaced by hard pavement and pounding heartbeats. Inside, the air smelled like paper and cologne. The young clerk, badge-reading Jules Miller, looked up from behind the load counter. "Excuse me," Eleanor began, voice shaking. "I'm Lucas Graves' wife. I'm trying to find him." The clerk frowned, typing something. "Ma'am, Mr. Graves isn't with us anymore." Her hands gripped the counter. "When did he leave?" Jules hesitated. "His last day was 2 weeks ago. He didn't say where he was going. Just packed up." Eleanor's voice fell to a whisper. "He told me yesterday he was flying out for work." Jules's eyes softened. "I'm sorry, ma'am." Outside, the air felt thinner. Every step home felt heavier than the one before. Martha waited by the door, holding a cup of coffee, and hoped she didn't feel. "Find anything?" "He lied," Eleanor said simply. "He quit before he left us." That night, Noah woke coughing again. The old ceiling fan groaned overhead as Eleanor rubbed his back, whispering, "You're okay, baby." When he fell asleep, she stood by the window, looking at the flickering streetlights. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. A chill ran through her. She pressed the call button. Silence. Then a click. "Lucas?" she breathed. A woman's voice answered. Calm, cold, confident. "He's with me. Don't call again." Eleanor froze. "Who is this?" The line went dead. The hum of the fridge filled the silence, and the quiet felt wrong again, deeper this time. Final. The next morning, she went to the police station. A broad-shouldered man in a worn leather jacket introduced himself as Detective Ray Stone. His handshake was firm but kind. "I'm used to finding people who don't want to be found," he said. Eleanor slid Lucas's photo across the table. "Find him. I just need to know why." Ray studied the picture, then looked up. "If he left you like this, he's hiding something. You ready to find out what?" Eleanor nodded. Tears steady, but eyes sharp. Now something new inside her. Forming. Resolve. Ray would soon find where Lucas went, but what they'd discover in that storage unit would break more than her heart. The phone rang again at dawn sharp, slicing through the hum of the fridge and the tired silence that clung to the small apartment. Eleanor's hand trembled as she grabbed it. She hadn't slept. The pipes whispered, the ceiling fan moaned, and Noah's soft breathing came from the other room. "Lucas?" she whispered. A pause. Then a woman's voice, smooth, calm, practiced. "He's with me." Eleanor's throat closed. "Who is this?" The woman's tone sharpened. "You need to stop calling. He wants peace. Respect that." "Peace?" Eleanor's voice cracked. "He left his family with unpaid bills, a late rent, and a cold house. My son asks where his father is every night." The line went dead. Her phone slipped from her hand, hitting the cool floor under her bare feet. The sound echoed. Martha rushed in wearing her robe, messy hair framing her worried face. "Who was that?" Eleanor stared at the phone, eyes wet. "Not a stranger." The woman who answered said, "He's with me." Martha's mouth fell open. "He has someone else?" Eleanor didn't answer. She walked to the window, pulling the curtain aside. Outside, the gray sky sat heavy over the town, a lid on the whole world. It wasn't just rain pressing down, it was humiliation. Later that day, she went to Patrick Moore's office, Lucas's father, hoping for an ounce of truth. Patrick was tall, silver-haired, with a polished calm that always made her feel small. Behind his mahogany desk, everything gleamed like a picture someone might use to sell happiness. "Patrick, please," she said, voice shaking. "Where is your son?" Patrick sighed, folding his arms. "Lucas told me you were becoming difficult, too emotional." Eleanor blinked. Emotional. He abandoned us. You're overreacting, Patrick said smoothly. Men need space, Eleanor. You push too much, you drive. Tell them away. Try to be more supportive. She stared, stunned. You're blaming me? I'm saying this isn't helping anyone, he replied, eyes cold. You have a child. Focus on that. Something in Eleanor hardened. She stood. You're right, Mr. Moore. I do have a child. And I'll focus on him since no one else will. She walked out, jaw tight, holding back tears until she reached the car. Inside, the silence heavier than shouting, she screamed into her sleeve. That night, she couldn't eat. Noah played on the floor with toy cars while she sat at the kitchen table, holding her phone like it might bite. Every sound in the apartment felt too loud. The kettle hissed, the pipes whispered, the world spinning but her heart standing still. Her phone buzzed again, a new message. It wasn't Lucas. It was a photo. Lucas at a restaurant, smiling, with the same woman's glossy hair and sharp smile from before. Her arm around his neck, captioned, "Starting fresh." Eleanor's hand shook. She whispered, "You started fresh by erasing us." The truth was a slow burn, but tonight it scorched. She didn't know yet. Soon she would find the proof hidden in a storage unit, and that proof would change everything. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please take a second to do it now. Every click, every share, every comment helps us keep telling stories that give strength to women and children who've been broken, forgotten, or silenced. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel, you're standing beside survivors, saying their stories matter. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story that could change a life. And in the comments, tell us where are you watching from and what part of this story spoke to your heart. The scream jolted Eleanor awake. Noah was coughing again, deep, painful, desperate. She rushed to him, holding his trembling shoulders as the ceiling fan spun lazily above them, stirring cold air instead of comfort. "Breathe, baby, breathe," she whispered, her heart racing. The pipes whispered too, the old apartment shaking with each harsh cough. She threw on her coat and carried him into the night. The gray sky loomed, the streets slick from yesterday's drizzle. A flickering sign buzzed outside the small-town ER. Inside, the smell of antiseptic stung her nose. "Eleanor Graves?" a calm voice called. A woman in blue scrubs stepped forward. "Doctor." Carla Dixon, mid-30 seconds, warm brown eyes, calm voice, firm steps. "You're back again." Eleanor nodded, exhausted. "His inhaler? It's not working anymore." "Doctor?" Dixon knelt by Noah, checking his chest. "He's strong," she said softly. "He just needs consistency, medicine, nutrition, rest." Eleanor's eyes burned. "Medicine costs money I don't have." Dr. Dixon hesitated, then pressed a card into Eleanor's hand. "Come to the clinic tomorrow. I'll see what I can do." When they got home, Noah fell asleep quickly. Eleanor stood in the dark kitchen. The hum of the fridge filled the silence. She looked at the half-empty cupboard, little money left, a few cans, one loaf of bread, and a jar of peanut butter. She picked up her notebook, flipping past pages of old grocery lists. On a clean page she wrote, "Find a way. Work nights. Keep Noah safe." The ink smudged where a tear landed. Morning came gray and heavy. The kettle hissed, and the cartoons sang on the TV for Noah as she dressed in her diner uniform. The fabric was thin, the name tag scratched, but it meant survival. At Miller's Diner, the scent of coffee and fried eggs clung to her hair. She wiped counters, smiled at strangers, carried trays while her body ached. Martha dropped by once, leaving a bag of muffins on the counter. "You need strength too," she said softly. By night, Eleanor cleaned offices downtown. The hum of vacuums drowned her thoughts. Sometimes she'd pause at the window, seeing her reflection, eyes older, shoulders straighter. The truth was a slow burn, but she was burning stronger now. Still, when bills arrived, rent due, late fees, unpaid hospital charges, fear clawed back. She sat at the kitchen table, calculator in one hand, Noah's drawing in the other. "A purple house with a giant yellow sun," she whispered. "We'll get there, step by step." But as she spoke, her phone buzzed again. A message, unknown number. Her heart stopped. "Don't expect him back. Move on." Her fingers tightened around the phone. The words blurred, fury rising through exhaustion. She whispered to the empty room, I'm not the one who should move on. He is. Tomorrow, she'd discover the storage unit and what Lucas had truly been hiding all along. The rainy Monday morning began with a letter sliding under the door. Eleanor bent to pick it up, hands trembling. The envelope was damp, edges torn. Inside was a late bill stamped red and a notice about rent due. She sank into a chair, staring at the ceiling while the ceiling fan spun slowly, whining like an old secret. From the floor, Noah's voice broke through. "Mom, can we make pancakes again?" He held the batter like a small holiday, trying to smile. Eleanor forced one back. "Half pancake for Daddy, remember?" Then silence. He looked down. "He's not coming back, is he?" Her throat tightened. "We'll talk after breakfast." But breakfast never came. The kettle hissed, the stove clicked, and outside, thunder rolled across the gray sky. Eleanor's eyes fell on the old toolbox beside the shelf, the only thing Lucas hadn't taken. Something inside rattled when she lifted it. Under a layer of rusted tools sat a small brass key labeled Unit 49 Coal Storage. Her breath caught. She remembered Detective Ray's warning. If he left without trace, he's hiding something. She called Martha, voice low. "Can you watch Noah for a few hours?" Martha arrived within minutes, coat half zipped. "Where are you going?" "To find answers." The drive took her past cracked sidewalks and faded signs until she reached a lot of orange doors, lined like closed mouths. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy. She approached the front desk where a man in a security vest looked up. His tag read Ben Coleman, tall, bald, and kind-eyed. "Ma'am?" he asked. "I need to access a unit. It belonged to Lucas Graves." She held up the key. Ben checked his clipboard. "Unit 49. Been unpaid for months." "You the spouse?" "Was," she said quietly. Ben unlocked the rolling door, and metal screeched open. Inside was the ghost of her marriage. Rows of boxes, a folded suit jacket, and a framed photo of their wedding glass cracked, smile perfect. She opened the nearest box. Inside, financial papers, bank statements, and photos of Lucas. With another woman, the same glossy hair, the same sharp smile from the photo message. Each picture was labeled Business Trip 2010, Conference 2011, Chicago 2012. Eleanor's breath quickened. He didn't just leave us. He built another life. She dug deeper, finding a folder marked legal. Inside lay their marriage certificate, untouched. Still valid. Still binding. The truth burned cold. Every business trip, every silent phone, every broken promise, all rehearsed lies. Ben spoke softly from the door. "You okay, ma'am?" She turned, holding the certificate. "No, but I will be." Outside, she stood under the gray sky, the lid on the whole town pressing down. She clenched the papers to her chest. This time, she wasn't crying. She was planning. Because what she'd found today wasn't just proof, it was power. And 15 years later, when that same paper resurfaced at a wedding, it would stop time itself. The morning began with laughter, real laughter, the kind Eleanor hadn't heard in years. The cartoon sang on the TV, and the kettle hissed on the stove. Noah, now 19, taller than his mother, flipped pancakes with the last batter, pretending to be a chef. "Mom, remember when we used to split one pancake in half because we couldn't afford more?" he said, grinning. Eleanor smiled, her hair streaked with silver now, her face lined with grace instead of grief. "I remember. Half for you, half for Daddy," she said softly. The old pain still there, but quieter now, like an echo fading behind stronger sounds. The apartment looked different, brighter. The hum of the fridge no longer haunted, but steady, a heartbeat of stability. On the wall, Noah's childhood drawing, that purple house with a giant yellow sun, was framed. Beneath it, Eleanor's old notebook rested open on the counter, filled with check marks beside the goals she once wrote. Find a way, pay bills, keep Noah safe. 15 years, a lifetime. Dr. Carla Dixon, now a family friend, stopped by with a bag of muffins and a proud smile. "He got in," she announced, holding a college envelope. Eleanor gasped. "You're serious?" Noah opened the letter, his eyes wide. "Full scholarship," he read aloud. "Pre-law." The joy was quiet but deep, like a mountain after a storm. Single mother resilience had turned into victory. Later that day, Eleanor met Pastor Reed at the community center. The man had aged too soft, her face, gentler eyes. He shook her hand warmly. You did it, Eleanor. You built something out of ashes. She smiled. We built it. One shift at a time. He nodded. That's what faith looks like, not loud, just steady. But beneath her peace lived one unresolved chapter. The storage unit papers, sealed away in a folder marked Lucas Graves, still sat in her drawer. Sometimes she thought of burning them. Sometimes she thought of mailing them. Mostly, she left them untouched, a relic of the man who tried to erase them. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Noah sat beside her at the window. Do you ever miss him? He asked quietly. Eleanor didn't answer right away. The gray sky turned gold, then soft blue. I miss who I thought he was, she finally said. But I don't miss the man who left us. Noah nodded slowly. I just want him to see who we became. Eleanor looked at her son, strong, confident, calm. Maybe someday he will. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. A message appeared. Invitation enclosed. Hope you can make it. LG. Her breath froze. A cream-colored envelope slipped through the mail slot moments later. Eleanor's hands trembled as she tore it open, a wedding invitation, gold-lettered, elegant. The groom's name? Lucas Graves. She didn't know yet that her decision to attend would make the whole world stop, and a crowd would soon freeze when she walked in. The kettle hissed again, this time louder, almost angry, like the sound carried 15 years of swallowed words. The cream-colored envelope sat on the kitchen table, gold letters gleaming under the morning light. Eleanor hadn't touched it since last night. Mom, Noah said quietly, standing by the counter in his college hoodie, hair messy, face serious. You're shaking. Eleanor glanced at her trembling hands. I'm fine. But she wasn't. The envelope still stared at her like an accusation. It wasn't just paper, it was a ghost with Lucas's handwriting. The same loops and flourishes she used to trace when signing rent checks for him. She tore it open finally. A gold ribbon slipped to the table. Inside, Mr. Lucas Graves and Miss Avery Hollis request the honor of your presence. Eleanor froze. Avery. That name. The same voice from the phone all those years ago, the one that said, he's with me. Her throat burned. Noah's fists clenched. He's marrying her? After what he did to us? Dr. Carla Dixon, sitting nearby with a mug of coffee, leaned forward. You don't have to go, Ellie. You've built peace. Don't let him pull you back. Eleanor stared at the window, where the gray sky pressed down like old memories. It's not about going back, she said softly. It's about showing him and everyone that I survived. Martha Lopez arrived then, older now, her hands carrying a bag of muffins. You already won, honey, she said, setting them down. He can't hurt you anymore. But he's still out there, telling his story, Eleanor replied. The one where I'm the problem. She opened her notebook, flipping to the last blank page. Her handwriting was steadier now. She wrote, Attend. Speak truth. No anger, only truth. Pastor Reed came by later, his voice calm as always. Eleanor, peace doesn't mean silence. She looked at him, eyes glistening. Then maybe peace starts with being heard. That night, she stood before her small mirror. Her reflection looked both strange and strong. She chose her outfit carefully, a simple black dress, pearl earrings, and the quiet confidence of a woman who had walked through storms. Noah appeared behind her. You're really going? She nodded. Yes, but not to make a scene, to make a statement. He handed her a folded paper, the marriage certificate she had found in the storage unit years ago. Take this. You might need it. Eleanor's breath caught. She tucked it into her purse beside her notebook. Outside, the air was crisp, the mountain road of the rest of her life stretching before her. She whispered, half to herself, half to the night, I'm ready now. The car engine hummed, headlights cutting through the fog. Ahead lay a city of marble floors and gold ribbons, and when her heels touched that ground, silence itself would hold its breath. The city 2 hours away glittered like glass, polished, loud, and far too clean for the kind of story Eleanor carried in her chest. Her hands tightened on the steering wheel, the mountain road of the rest of her life stretching behind her like a memory. She could smell the money before she saw it, the kind of air that pretended it didn't remember struggle. The hotel stood tall and gold, banners fluttering over the grand doors, the imperial estate. She parked near the edge, where the limousines didn't go. As she stepped out, the heels clicked on marble, echoing against the glass doors polished like air. Inside, chandeliers glittered. String music floated through the space. White roses, gold ribbons, perfect smiles trembling in the reflection of the glass. The hum of conversations softened when the crowd turned to look. A woman in a headset, Corey Lance, the hotel manager, approached with a polite smile. "Ma'am, are you a guest or part of the ceremony?" Eleanor lifted her chin. "I was invited." Corey scanned the list. Her eyes widened. "Eleanor Graves?" "Yes," Eleanor said simply. There was a pause, confusion, curiosity, a flicker of recognition before Corey gestured toward the grand hall. "Right this way." As she entered, the room's noise dimmed. The marble floor gleamed under her shoes, heels clicking in rhythm with the music. People turned. Well-dressed guests whispered, faces half smiling, half staring. At the altar stood Lucas Graves, tailored suit, polished watch, smile ready, 15 years older, but still the man who once said business trip. Beside him, Avery Hollis, the same glossy hair, the same sharp smile, wrapped in a river of white silk. Her hands rested on Lucas's arm like she owned his story. Lucas's jaw tightened when his eyes met Eleanor's. The air thinned. Even the string quartet hesitated. A hush rippled. The crowd whispered, "Who's she?" "Wait, did she just say Eleanor Graves?" Eleanor walked calmly, her simple black dress cutting through the shimmer like truth through glass. In her purse, her fingers brushed the marriage certificate, folded neatly beside her notebook. A man in a gray suit stepped forward. Graham Cole, Lucas's lawyer and best man. "Excuse me, ma'am, this is a private event." "I know," she said softly. "That's why I'm here." Avery tilted her head, smiling politely. "You must be mistaken. The press isn't allowed inside." Eleanor's voice stayed even. "I'm not press." She stepped closer to the altar, eyes never leaving Lucas's. "But you might remember 15 years ago, you left your wife and son to die." Gasps scattered through the hall. The air cracked like glass under pressure. Avery's painted smile faltered. Lucas tried to speak, but the officiant cleared his throat awkwardly. "Ma'am, perhaps." Eleanor handed him an envelope. "Read this before you proceed." The officiant looked uncertain but took it. Inside, the legal marriage certificate, untouched and valid. Every whisper stopped. Eleanor turned to the silent guests, her tone calm but sharp as truth. "You may now decide what kind of man you're here to celebrate." And when the officiant's voice returned, what he said next would shatter everything they thought they knew about Lucas Graves. The silence that followed was almost sacred. You could hear the string music die mid-note, the soft thud of a heel on marble, and the faint hum of the chandelier above. The officiant, a retired judge named Harrison Ford, frowned down at the cream-colored envelope Eleanor had handed him. His hands trembled slightly as he unfolded the paper. Lucas took a half-step forward, his jaw tightened, voice low but sharp. "What is this stunt, Eleanor?" She didn't flinch. "No stunt, just truth." The judge cleared his throat. "This," he began, then stopped. His brow furrowed deeper. "This is a legal marriage certificate, issued 15 years ago, between Lucas Graves and Eleanor Graves." Gasps rippled through, and the crowd. Whispers rose like a storm, white roses trembling in their vases, camera flashes blinking like nervous eyes. Avery's painted face went pale. "That's impossible," she hissed. "He told me." Eleanor's calm voice cut her off. "He told you what? That I was dead? Forgotten?" The judge looked up, his voice firmer now. "Mr. Graves, are you aware that you are still legally married?" Lucas's throat bobbed. "That's ridiculous. We separated years ago." Eleanor's gaze stayed steady. "Separation isn't divorce." A murmur of realization passed through the guests. Phones lifted, screens glowing, ready to capture what was quickly becoming a scandal. Graham Cole, the lawyer, rushed forward, sweat glistening under the bright lights. "Your Honor, there must be some misunderstanding." Judge Ford raised a hand. "The certificate is valid. There's no record of annulment or dissolution." Avery stepped back, clutching her bouquet like a shield. "Lucas, tell them this isn't true." Lucas opened his mouth, but no words came out. Every lie he built now cracked like thin glass. Eleanor took one step closer. Her simple black dress caught the light, her pearls steady against her throat. "You left your wife and son to die," she said softly. No word, no support, not even a call. And now you stand here pretending to start a new life when the old one is unfinished. The crowd murmured again, louder this time. Guest gasps, whispers rising, a room falling silent and roaring all at once. The judge set the paper down, his voice echoing across the marble hall. This ceremony cannot continue. You are still legally bound to this woman. This wedding is suspended until further notice. Avery's hands shook. Her perfect smile trembled. You lied to me, she whispered. Eleanor's eyes met hers, briefly no malice. Only calm power. Now you know what it feels like. Lucas lunged forward. Eleanor, please. But, she turned and walked away, her heels clicking on marble, head high. Behind her, the crowd erupted. Phones recording, voices overlapping, truth going live. By nightfall, the world would know what happened here, and by morning, his empire would start to fall. The flash of cameras lit the marble hall like lightning. Voices overlapped, phones lifted, and the truth went live before anyone could stop it. Eleanor stood near the exit, her hand still on the door, watching chaos unfold behind her. Eleanor, wait! Lucas shouted, his voice breaking through the noise. His tailored suit, once a symbol of control, now hung loose, wrinkled by panic. Avery's mascara streaked her cheeks, her bouquet crushed in her trembling hand. You lied to everyone, she screamed. Reporters surged forward. Lena Price, a local journalist known for covering high society scandals, pushed through the crowd, camera flashing. Mrs. Graves, she called, voice sharp. Do you have any comment for the record? Eleanor turned, calm amid the storm. Yes, she said softly. Tell them he left his wife and son to die, and now he tried to bury us twice. But truth doesn't stay buried. The crowd gasped again. The string quartet had long stopped playing. Only whispers filled the marble hall, bouncing off gold ribbons in shattered pride. Lucas tried to reach her, but security blocked him. Please, he begged. Eleanor, not like this. Let's talk privately. Her voice stayed steady, cutting through the noise. Privately? You made your betrayal public. You'll live your truth the same way. Phones recording, screens glowing, hashtags forming in real time. Number. The real Mrs. Graves trended within minutes. The story had escaped the room. Avery turned on Lucas. You humiliated me in front of everyone. She threw the ring at him, the diamond clattering across the floor. You said she was gone. He grabbed her wrist, desperate. I didn't mean, don't touch. Me, she snapped, stepping away as guests gasped, murmuring. Lena Price zoomed in for the shot. Sir, care to respond to the accusation that you're still legally married? Lucas covered his face, voice trembling. It's complicated. Eleanor stepped closer, eyes cold but kind. No, it's simple. You lied to me. You lied to her. And now the world sees who you are. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded letter. This is what 15 years of silence looks like, she said, dropping it into his hand. 5 minutes of your shame for 15 years of my endurance. We're even. Then she walked out, the heels clicking one last time across the marble floor, through the glass doors polished like air. Behind her, voices swelled, shaky cell phone videos uploaded, and 1,000 strangers began to take sides. Outside, the warm air hit her face. She inhaled deeply. For the first time in 15 years, breathing didn't hurt. Her phone buzzed, notification sounds stacking. One headline flashed across the screen. Businessman Lucas Graves, exposed by wife at his own wedding video, hits 2 million views in 2 hours. Eleanor smiled faintly. The truth finally found its audience. But by tomorrow, when the empire started crumbling and the apology call came, she'd face one final choice: forgiveness or freedom. The internet erupted like a firestorm. Within hours, the video from the wedding flooded every feed, phones recording, screens glowing, comment, battlefield raging across platforms. Number The Real Mrs. Graves hit #1 in trending, while number Wedding of Lies followed close behind. Lena Price, the same reporter who'd captured the moment, appeared on the morning news. Viewers, she said on camera, what began as a private ceremony has turned into a national scandal. The man exposed is businessman Lucas Graves, now facing not only a destroyed reputation, but possible legal consequences. At the small apartment 2 cities away, Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, the hum of the fridge steady behind her. Her phone kept buzzing, notifications stacking faster than she could swipe. Thousands of messages. Support, sympathy, admiration. You're brave. You did the right thing. We needed this story. Noah entered the kitchen, holding his own phone. Mom, people are talking about you everywhere. Look, he showed her a comment thread under the viral clip. That woman is a legend. Eleanor smiled faintly. Legends are just survivors who didn't give up. Meanwhile, across town, Lucas sat alone in his office. Blinds closed, tie undone, phone ringing nonstop. Screens around him replayed his own humiliation on loop. The look on Avery's face, Eleanor's calm voice, the judge halting the wedding. His assistant's voice cracked through the intercom. Sir, 3 board members have resigned. The sponsor pulled funding, and your company's leadership photo was removed from the website. Lucas buried his head in his hands. Turn it off, he muttered. But the world didn't turn off. At the hotel, Avery packed her bags. Her diamond ring lay on the desk, glittering uselessly. He said she was gone, she whispered to herself. He said she was nothing. Then she caught sight of a live interview. Eleanor's calm face, her quiet grace. Avery stared for a long moment, then turned off the TV. Maybe she's everything, she said softly, tears finally falling. Back on the news, Lena continued. Public opinion has shifted drastically. Some call Eleanor's act revenge, others call it justice. One thing's certain, this story has become a movement about truth, betrayal, and accountability. Eleanor leaned back, exhaling slowly. The quiet felt different now, not empty, but earned. The kettle hissed gently, and she poured tea into a chipped mug. The same one from years ago, the one Lucas left behind. She turned it in her hands and whispered, You left me pieces. I built a life with them. Her phone buzzed again. A new message. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then froze when she saw the sender ID. Lucas Graves. Eleanor, please. Just 5 minutes to talk. I need to make things right. Her hand hovered over the screen. Noah stepped beside her. You don't owe him anything. She stared at the message, silent. The air thickened, heavy, uncertain. Tomorrow, he would come to her door with words he'd rehearsed for years, but not even he was ready for what she'd say next. The sound of the phone ringing wouldn't stop. It echoed through Lucas's penthouse like a siren for everything he'd lost. The screens glowing across his office showed headlines stacked against him. CEO, exposed at his own wedding, still legally married. The Eleanor Graves scandal. He slammed his hand on the desk. Turn it off, all of it. But Graham Cole, his lawyer and former best man, only sighed. His once pressed suit now hung loose, his face pale. You can't turn off the internet, Lucas. The board already voted. You're out. Lucas spun around, eyes bloodshot. Out? They can't. They did. Graham cut in. The contracts are gone. Investors pulled out. And your father, don't say it. Your father wants nothing to do with this. Graham finished quietly. Lucas's breath caught. Patrick Moore, the man who once defended every lie, had turned silent. The one call he'd made earlier came back with only 5 words. You ruined our family name. He stared at the city skyline, glowing cold through the glass. Just weeks ago, he stood above it, all tailored suit, shiny shoes, a man who thought he'd never fall. Now the city looked like judgment. The quiet felt wrong, but this time, it wasn't Eleanor's silence haunting him. It was his own. The door opened. Corey Lance, the hotel manager from the wedding, stepped in nervously. Mr. Graves, the hotel requests you clear your belongings tonight. There's media outside. Media? She hesitated. Dozens, sir. Cameras. Questions about the lies. And the woman you left. Lucas's face fell. She won. Corey looked at him gently. No. She survived. That's different. She left him standing there, surrounded by the hum of the fridge, the pipes whispering through the walls, reminders of the life he'd once mocked. His reflection in the window looked like a stranger. He saw the man who'd once said, business trip, and realized the truth. It wasn't success he wanted, it was control. And control was gone. He walked through the apartment, empty drawers, dent in his pillow, shirts gone, all reversed now. She had rebuilt. He had crumbled. His phone buzzed again. Another message. From Eleanor. Just one line. Be a real father first. Lucas read it twice, then sat heavily on the floor. the weight of every choice collapsing at once. He looked around the penthouse, glowing but hollow, all marble, no warmth. A knock sounded on the door. Graham's voice came muffled. "They're here for the keys, Lucas." Lucas swallowed. "Yeah, just give me a minute." He looked at the city again, the place that had once bowed to him. Now, it watched him like a witness. He whispered, almost to himself, "You win, Eleanor." Tomorrow, when he finally gathered the courage to face her and Noah in person, it wouldn't be power he brought, only regret. The ballpark buzzed with the sound of cheering families, the crack of a bat, and a child's laughter somewhere behind the stands. But at the far edge of the bleachers, a different silence waited, one heavy and unfinished. Lucas Graves stood there, hands shaking, clutching an old letter. He wore no tailored suit now, just a wrinkled shirt and tired eyes that carried the weight of 15 years of consequences. He saw them before they saw him. Eleanor, seated beside Noah, was calm, poised. Her hair caught the sunlight, and her face, older, wiser, had the peace of someone who no longer needed closure to breathe. Lucas stepped closer, each footstep crunching like guilt on gravel. "Eleanor," he said softly. She turned. Her eyes didn't widen in surprise. "Lucas." For a moment, time folded. The past and present stood side by side. He remembered the woman he'd left beside a thin blanket, holding their coughing son. Now she was someone untouchable, rooted in her own strength. Noah stood, his voice steady. "You shouldn't be here." Lucas looked at him, taller now, broad-shouldered, a reflection of everything he'd missed. "You've grown." "I had to," Noah replied. The quiet felt wrong, yet necessary. Lucas held out the letter. "This was my apology. I wrote it after the wedding. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it out loud." Eleanor didn't take it. "Apologies are meant for the living years, not the leftover ones." He swallowed hard. "You have every right to hate me." She shook her head. "I don't hate you, Lucas. I outgrew you." Noah's jaw tightened. "You left us to die. You think words fix that?" Lucas's shoulders sagged. "No, son, but maybe you can still see the man I'm trying to be now." From the field, Coach Henry Blake, Noah's mentor and a retired ball player, called out, "Game's starting soon, kid." He gave Eleanor a small nod, sensing the storm. Noah looked between them. "Mom, go play," she said softly. "We're fine." He hesitated, then walked toward the field, bat in hand. The sound of kids cheering filled the gap between them. Lucas exhaled shakily. "You raised him well." Eleanor nodded. "He raised me too." They stood in silence as the crowd clapped for a home run. Lucas finally asked, "Is there anything I can do to make it right?" She looked at him steadily, without malice. "Be a real father first. Then maybe. Someday, your son will choose if you deserve that title." He nodded slowly, eyes wet. "I'll try." Eleanor stepped back, lifting her chin. "Try quietly. The world's heard enough of your voice." As she turned to leave, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the field. The air shifted gentler, lighter as Noah's laughter echoed in the distance. Lucas stood there, watching the family he'd abandoned become the proof of his undoing. That night, a single letter would arrive at Eleanor's door, a letter not from Lucas, but from someone she never expected. The knock came just before dawn, soft, deliberate, and unfamiliar. Eleanor Graves opened her eyes to the gray lights sliding through the curtains. The hum of the fridge filled the silence as she tied her robe and walked to the door. A courier stood outside, holding a cream-colored envelope sealed with gold wax. "Delivery for Mrs. Graves?" he said. No sender's name. Her breath hitched. She thanked him, closed the door, and sat at the kitchen table. The kettle hissed, echoing like memory. The envelope looked like the one that started it all, the wedding invitation. But this time, the handwriting wasn't Lucas's. She broke the seal slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The letter began, "Dear Mom, I wanted to do this the right way." Eleanor's heart stopped. It wasn't from Lucas. It was from Noah. She read on, "You always said forgiveness isn't about forgetting, it's about freeing yourself from what chained you. I met Dad yesterday after the game. He's not the man he was. I didn't forgive him for you. I forgave him for me and for us." Her fingers trembled. "I told him the truth, that the best thing he ever did was leave, because it taught you how strong you were." He cried, "Mom," and for the first time, I didn't feel hate. I felt peace. I wanted you to feel that too. Tears rolled down her cheeks silently. The quiet felt different now. Warm, earned, alive. As the ceiling fan turned gently above her, Eleanor folded the letter and pressed it to her heart. She whispered, "You learned the lesson I hoped you would." Moments later, Martha Lopez let herself in, carrying a bag of muffins still warm from the oven. "You're up early," she said, setting them down. Eleanor smiled through tears. "I had a letter." "From him?" She shook her head. "From Noah. About forgiveness." Martha smiled softly. "Then maybe the mountain's been climbed." Dr. Carla Dixon arrived soon after for her morning check-in, her warm eyes scanning Eleanor's face. "You look lighter today." "I am," Eleanor said. "For the first time in 15 years, I'm not waiting for anything, not revenge, not apology, not closure. I already have it." Pastor Reed stopped by with a small box wrapped in brown paper. "Church fundraiser," he said, placing it beside her. Inside were photos from the community kitchen. Eleanor helped build families smiling, children laughing, pancakes on paper plates. Eleanor looked around the room. Butter, smell, laughter filling the kitchen, dog in the yard, Noah humming in the next room. She whispered to herself, This is home." She took out her old notebook, flipped to the final page, and wrote 3 words in steady ink. "We made it." The sun poured through the window, scattering gold over the table. For a long moment, she simply breathed deeply, freely, finally. Then, her phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen from an unknown number. "Your story changed lives. Would you consider speaking at our Women of Resilience conference?" Eleanor smiled, eyes glistening. "Maybe it's time to share it." She looked into the camera of her phone and whispered, "Hello, family. Please subscribe. We're keeping hope alive. Because somewhere out there, another woman is still waiting for her morning of peace. And this story might just remind her that the greatest revenge is moving on.